I'm really struggling at the moment looking for some advice. Throwaway to keep this private. My 29-year-old female boyfriend, 33-year-old male, moved in with me around a year ago. We have been together for 5 years now. Before we moved in, we would mostly eat out together or grab something easy from the shop and eat at mine, not his, as he lived with his parents. Since moving in, he has become a Gordon Ramsay wannabe. Saying he's a trained chef, used to work at McDonald's, lol. But he understands food hygiene and wants to cook more adventurous food. I'm not against that, and I'm happy for him to experiment and cook whatever he fancies, as long as the mess does not get left behind in the kitchen. Here's the issue. I'm incredibly picky. I know I'm not a child and I should just grow up. Trust me, I've heard it all before. And don't get me wrong, I have tried so many new things since being with him. I actually surprise myself. The picky eating is more than just picky eating. It's a fear phobia. I don't know. If I eat something I'm not sure about, I tend to get a bad stomach and get sick. If the environment things are cooked in isn't clean, I will just not eat from there. Or get something that won't unalive me if I eat it. Like fries, for example. It's mostly meat products and a select specific few other random selection of foods, mainly related to texture or poison risk. I have been like this since I was a kid, and overall it's not a massive issue. Most places have things on the menu I will eat, and if not, I will always ask if they cannot put a certain thing in the food. However, my boyfriend has taken it upon himself to try and sneak things into what he's cooking for us. For example, he snuck mushrooms into a ragu recently. He's tried to sneak peanut butter into sauces. He even tried to tell me calamari was an onion ring. I don't eat pork. And he made a meat sauce with beef pork mince. These are just some examples. I think he expects to have an aha moment and catch me out. I have had people doing this to me from a young age, and I'm an expert at spotting it. For example, I will glance in the bin to see what packaging is in there before I eat, and I inspect every mouthful of food. I eat sauces separately so I can see my food. I check what's on the cutlery in the sink. Look at receipts. I have a huge mistrust with people and food, and this is only making matters worse. It has got to the point where I won't eat any meals he is cooking because I don't think it's safe. I've said this to him time and time again, and he won't listen, and I'm not sure what to do about it. We can't keep on living this way, but I'm not sure I can trust him anymore. I know it's silly, and it's just food, but at this point, it's not something that's likely to change about me. To live in the same place and eat 2 separate meals, he makes it feel like it's a huge inconvenience, but he will eat anything and will not. Any advice on how I can address this with him? I'm starting to question the whole relationship, mostly for this reason, which makes me sad. He just doesn't seem to get it and just thinks I'm attention-seeking. Edit. Thanks for all the concern regarding my eating. I would just like to let everyone know that I am in therapy and have been for many years. The eating was the starting point, and myself and my therapist are at a point where it's safe and I'm healthy. My boyfriend knows I'm in therapy but has no interest in my progress unless I tell him. He wants no part of the therapy. Also, those of you who assume I'm a beige eater, I am not. I have a healthy and varied diet. In addition to this, I am extremely knowledgeable in the area of autism and sensory issues, and previously had a role in my local autism diagnostic service as a sensory specialist. I and my colleagues at the time highly suspect I am on the spectrum. My boyfriend thinks I'm just trying to collect diagnoses. This job was the prompt for me to get support in the first place. ARFID is a new term and not well known in the UK. Diagnosis or not, I have strategies to manage this, but I will endeavor to look into this more. The issue is around my boyfriend sneaking new foods into my food, not the eating. Update coming. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Completely not acceptable. My daughter sometimes eats pork, rarely eats beef, and hates mushrooms. I would never sneak stuff into her food, even when she was a child. In fact, she'd go out of her way to tell guests that the reason I chop everything up in larger chunks is so it's easier for her to pick out. Your body, your choice, what you want to put into it. His continuing to do this is disrespectful and controlling. Comment 2. I've said this to him time and time again, and he won't listen, and I'm not sure what to do about it. We can't keep on living this way, but I'm not sure I can trust him anymore. I know it's silly and it's just food. No, it is not silly. This is absolutely ridiculous behavior on his part. Either cook your own food and only eat what you have cooked, or break up. Honestly, break up. This is unhinged behavior from him. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the comments and advice on my last post. I really appreciate it. I've got an update for you, and let me tell you, it's been a busy week. So, after I posted last time, things with my boyfriend escalated. Remember how I mentioned he tried to sneak mushrooms into the ragu? Well, he's been at it again, but this time it was with seafood, which I'm allergic to. He made a stir fry and told me it was all veggies, but I found a shrimp hidden under the broccoli. I confronted him about it, and he just shrugged it off, saying he forgot. But how do you forget something like that? It's not like I haven't told him a million times about my allergies. I've been thinking a lot about our relationship and how food has always been a point of contention between us. Even when we first started dating, he'd get frustrated with my limited menu choices. But back then, it was easier to manage since we weren't living together. Now, it's like he's on a mission to change me, and I don't understand why. The other night, we had a huge fight. He cooked dinner, and I did my usual checks, looking in the bin, inspecting the food, the whole 9 yards. He caught me in the act and lost it. He said he felt like I was treating him like a criminal in his own home. I tried to explain that it's not about him, it's about my anxiety and the need to feel safe with what I eat. But he wouldn't listen. He said I was being paranoid and that I needed to trust him more. But how can I trust him when he keeps doing things like this? It's like he doesn't get that it's not just about the food. It's about respect and understanding. I've been in therapy for years, working on these issues, and it feels like he's undoing all my progress. And then there's the whole issue with my job history as a sensory specialist. He's always been dismissive of my work and my interest in autism and sensory issues. He thinks I'm overreacting and that I should just get over it. But it's not that simple. I've worked hard to understand myself and my needs, and it's frustrating that he doesn't see the value in that. Just yesterday, I found out he'd been talking to his friends about my eating habits, making jokes at my expense. I overheard him on a call, laughing about how I'd never know if he mixed pork into the beef mince. It felt like such a betrayal. I confronted him about it, and he brushed it off, saying it was just a joke. But it's not funny to me. It's my life, and it's serious. I'm at a breaking point. I love him, but I can't keep living like this. It's not just about the food anymore. It's about trust and respect. I've tried to address it with him, but he doesn't seem to understand or care how much this is affecting me. I'm starting to question if this relationship is right for me. I never thought I'd have to choose between my well-being and my relationship, but here I am. My best friend flirts with my fiancé at his repair shop and disappears for a night, but then she confesses she's jealous of our relationship. My friend was asking me about the cost of my rent the other day, and I told her my fiancé pays for our rent because it's not that expensive. She responded how I'm so lucky and she would suck so much weenie for free rent. I thought her response was weird, but I just laughed and changed the subject. To add some background, this friend is engaged to her boyfriend of 10 years. I think he is 42, and they split all of their expenses from what I have gathered. He is pleasant whenever I interact with him, but she does complain about him all the time. She says she's going to leave him if she ever gets rich. This always makes me uncomfortable, and also doesn't make sense because he is not paying for her, so she could just leave him now if she is unhappy. A few weeks after this interaction, I asked to take her to lunch to celebrate her birthday. I paid with cash when the bill came, and for some reason she asked me where I got the cash from. This caught me off guard, and looking back, I feel like this is such a strange question. I told her my fiancé gave me cash because the place we were having lunch was inside one of my favorite shopping centers. She became overjoyed. She said, "Thank you to fiancé's name so much for my birthday lunch. I have to buy him his favorite cookies now for a thank you. That's so sweet of him to want to buy me a birthday lunch." I told her she doesn't have to get him anything because he didn't know what I was using the cash for, so there's no need to thank him. She insisted on getting him his favorite cookies as a thank you. I thought this whole interaction was quite weird, but not enough to say anything more. A few days later, she texts me while I'm in the car with my fiancé, and she starts asking questions about repairing her car bumper. My fiancé owns a repair shop, so she wanted his advice on how to repair it while saving money. I told her everything he told me, to buy a bumper on Craigslist, and then she can take it to his shop or watch a YouTube video, because it's an easy fix for the type of car she has. I was replying to all of her questions very quickly since my fiancé was right there. After I finished answering her questions, she said, "You know what? This would be way easier if you just give me fiancé's number." I told my fiancé, and he said he didn't want to give out his personal number, but I can give his shop phone if I want to. He thinks she is annoying because he says she is always throwing subtle jabs at me. She stopped replying after I didn't give her his cell number. She has also said on multiple occasions my fiancé doesn't know how attractive he is, even though she has only been around him a handful of times. I've always been bad at picking up on social cues, but I have a feeling she is interested in my fiancé. Should I say something or just start to distance myself? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Thank you for the advice, everyone. I knew this friend was displaying some red flags, but I wasn't sure if it was bad enough to end the friendship over. After consideration, I will be following the advice and talking to her about stepping down as a bridesmaid. Comment 2. He thinks she is annoying because he says she is always throwing subtle jabs at me. So your fiancé is very smart to not give out his personal number and also notices that she jabs at you. Why not listen to him and distance yourself? Now for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since my last post and I've got quite the update for you all. So buckle up because things have taken some unexpected turns. After the whole birthday lunch fiasco, things with my friend started to get even weirder. Remember how she was so insistent on thanking my fiancé for the lunch he didn't even know he was paying for? Well, she did end up dropping off a batch of his favorite cookies at our place. My fiancé was confused but appreciated the gesture. He's always been the type to see the good in people, but even he found it odd. Now let's rewind a bit to give you some context about my friend's relationship with her boyfriend. They've been together for a decade, and she's always had this idea that she's settling for him. She's told me countless times that she feels like she's missing out on something better. It's like she's always on the lookout for an upgrade, and I guess my fiancé caught her eye. Fast forward to a couple of weeks ago, and things escalated. My friend started showing up at my fiancé's repair shop under the pretense of getting her car fixed. She'd find any excuse to chat with him, asking questions about cars, repairs, and whatnot. My fiancé, being the helpful guy he is, didn't think much of it at first. But then she started showing up even when her car was fine, bringing him lunch and trying to hang out at the shop. One day I stopped by the shop unannounced and found her there, laughing and touching his arm in a way that was definitely not just friendly. I felt my heart drop. It was clear she was flirting with him, and I couldn't believe she'd go this far. My fiancé looked uncomfortable, and when he saw me, he quickly excused himself from the conversation. I confronted her later that day, asking her what was going on. She laughed it off, saying she was just being friendly and that I was overreacting. But I wasn't convinced. I remembered how she'd always complain about her boyfriend and how she'd leave him if she could find someone better. It was like a light bulb went off in my head. She was trying to make a move on my fiancé. The next jaw-dropping moment came when her boyfriend called me. He was upset and wanted to know if I'd seen her because she hadn't come home the previous night. I was shocked. I had no idea where she was, but I had a sinking feeling. I didn't want to cause more trouble, so I told him I hadn't seen her and suggested he call her friends. That night, my friend showed up at my door, crying. She said she'd had a huge fight with her boyfriend and that she didn't know where to go. I let her in, trying to be a good friend despite everything. She kept saying how she wished she had what I had and how lucky I was to have such a great guy like my fiancé. The next day, her boyfriend came by to pick her up. He thanked me for letting her stay and mentioned how he wished they could have a relationship like mine and my fiance's. It was awkward, to say the least. Now here's where the big misunderstanding comes in. My fiancé had been acting a bit distant, and I assumed it was because of the whole situation with my friend. I thought maybe he was reconsidering our relationship because of the drama. So, I decided to have a heart-to-heart with him. I told him everything I was feeling and how I was worried that my friend's actions were affecting us. He looked at me completely surprised and then started laughing. He explained that he'd been distant because he was planning a surprise getaway for us to have some quality time together. He'd noticed the tension and wanted us to have a break from all the craziness. I felt so relieved and a little silly for jumping to conclusions. We talked it out, and he reassured me that he was 100% committed to our relationship and that my friend's antics hadn't changed how he felt about me. As for my friend, I've decided to keep my distance. It's clear that she's not respecting my relationship, and I don't need that kind of drama in my life. It's a tough decision, but sometimes you have to put your own happiness first. He said I shaved for someone else and called me a whore. Now he's begging me to forgive him, but then I get a call from a woman claiming she's been sleeping with my husband. Oh boy, throwaway account for obvious reasons. My partner, 45-year-old male, and I, 42-year-old female, have been married for 18 years. Last night we had a conversation that blew my mind. I was in the shower when he came in and was being rude. He wanted me to turn down my podcast. Instead of asking nicely, he came in yelling loudly, "Can you hear me?" I turned and was shaving my private area, and he asked, "Why are you hiding? Who are you shaving that for?" in an unpleasant manner, and I was shocked. I called him a jerk and told him to leave. He kept standing there, and I again told him to leave because he was letting all of the warm air out. I remember this conversation clearly. I walked out a few minutes later, so angry that I wasn't speaking to him. He asked again, "Why were you hiding from me when shaving yourself?" I replied with a very reasonable answer and told him it was so inappropriate for him to suggest that it was for someone else. This turned into a yelling match where he tried to take my phone, and I said facetiously, "Oh yeah, I'm just sleeping with everyone." He started screaming and calling me an intimacy worker because whores sleep with everyone. He then acts like he never said anything inappropriate, and I am imagining the entire shower conversation. He said that he walked into the bathroom, asked me to turn down the podcast, and walked back out. When I walked out of the bathroom, I said, "I'm sleeping with everyone," out of nowhere. He said, "Your dad started showing signs of dementia at 55, which he didn't, not till he was 68, and he didn't drink Diet Coke like you do." Then he tries to play it off like he just loves me and cares about me. He said he's worried about me and wants me to go see a neurologist to make sure I'm okay. He said this isn't the first time this has happened, and he thinks it might be becoming more serious. He slept on the couch last night. This morning he said he just loves me and worries about me. I told him if he slings accusations, gets nasty, and says stuff about me and my dad like that, he doesn't get to say he loves me anymore. However, I would be lying if I said that it didn't freak me out and make me question my sanity. What if I am experiencing early-stage dementia or something? I am legitimately freaked out by the possibility. I know I need to get out of my toxic relationship, but if there's a chance I could be losing my mind, how do I figure that out and then I'll be alone and losing my mind? FFS. To get ahead of questions I think you'll probably ask. 1. He had been drinking last night. I had not. I didn't think he had that much to drink, but he could have been extremely drunk for all I know. 2. This is not the first time he's accused me, unwarranted, of cheating on him. I don't suspect him of it, and I have never done it to him. It comes from a place of insecurity. 3. This is not the first time he's used this type of language or name-calling. He stopped drinking for a while because his behavior was volatile, and I told him he needed to stop or we were going to get divorced. This was the first weekend in a while he's had alcohol. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. He is gaslighting you. Next time, record the conversation and play it back. He had issues with alcohol and is heading back to dangerous old patterns. The anger will be coming back unless he decides to get and stay sober again. Comment 2. Out of the countless examples of Reddit posts claiming gaslighting, this one actually used the term correctly. He is indeed gaslighting you. See a doctor to reassure yourself, then break up with your hurtful partner. Now for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since my last post, and I've got quite the update for you all. Throwaway account still in use, for obvious reasons. So after that crazy shower argument, things between my husband and I were super tense. We were barely talking, and when we did, it was like walking on eggshells. I was still reeling from his accusations and the whole dementia comment. I mean, who says that to their partner? But then, out of nowhere, he comes home one day with flowers and an apology. He said he'd been thinking a lot about what happened and realized he was out of line. He even booked an appointment with a therapist to talk about his insecurities and drinking. I was shocked, to say the least. It was like he was a completely different person. I decided to give him a chance, but I was still on guard. We started going to couples therapy, and it was actually helping. We were learning to communicate better, and things were slowly getting back to normal. Or so I thought. One day I was at work and I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was a woman, and she said she had something important to tell me about my husband. My heart sank. She claimed that she and my husband had been having an affair for months. I couldn't believe it. I confronted him as soon as I got home, and he denied everything. He said she was just some crazy lady he met at a bar once, and that she'd been stalking him. I didn't know what to believe. I wanted to trust him, but after everything that had happened, it was hard. We had another huge fight, and he stormed out. I was left alone, feeling more confused than ever. The next day, he came back and showed me messages from this woman. They were all one-sided, with her sending him tons of texts and him not responding. He had told her to leave him alone, but she wouldn't listen. He said he didn't tell me because he didn't want to worry me. I felt a mix of relief and anger. Why hadn't he just been upfront with me? We decided to get a restraining order against her, and that seemed to put an end to it. But the whole ordeal had taken its toll on us. We were both exhausted and emotionally drained. Then one evening we were sitting on the couch, and he just broke down. He told me he was so sorry for everything, that he loved me more than anything, and that he was scared of losing me. He said he'd stop drinking for good this time. He didn't want to be that person anymore. I was taken aback by his vulnerability. It was a side of him I hadn't seen in a long time. We held each other and cried together. It felt like we were finally breaking down the walls that had been building up between us. Since then, things have been better. Not perfect, but better. We're still going to therapy, and he's been sober. He's been more open with me, and I've been trying to be more understanding. It's like we're learning to be a couple all over again. And as for the dementia scare, I did go see a neurologist just to be safe. Everything came back normal, which was a huge relief. It was just another thing we could cross off our list of worries. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.